What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Sorry we're a little late there. Here on a damn Monday morning. Monday, February 11th, 2019. Here, hopefully with some late night outragians. Getting in on some, salacious, seltzer, scintillating societal syntax here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I had a long day today. Hit the gym, ate an entire Little Caesars pizza, whole pint of ice cream there, and a couple protein bars, and I hit the Fourth Wall Comedy Club for 2 sets. Shit got pretty wild in the last one. My boy Kevin Power Jr. went up and killed it. And the last chick that went up, or the second to last comic that went up was this chick, and she like spent the last half of her set trying to roast him in some weird like fuck you energy. What's up, AJ? How you feeling, man? Did you watch the Grammys? I sure as fuck didn't. I'm pretty sure, everybody gave the same fuck Donald Trump speech, and then they all cheered for some reason when Michelle Obama came out, as if she's accomplished anything in her fucking life besides sucking Barack Obama's dick and trying to give vegan food to children and lower their testosterone. That's good. That's good. You didn't know it went on. That's that's a healthy mind state to be in. But yeah, dude, I was talking to this guy who calls himself a liberal outside the Fourth Wall, and he's the guy I got in the argument with on Fourth Wall TV on the libertarian debate, and he called himself a liberal on stage and like referred to me, and I said, no, you're not a liberal, because he's the type of guy that supports 70% tax rates on people who make $10 million or more, and just generally high taxes for everybody. And you know what's really not conducive to the freedom of the individual, which is what I would usually think that the term liberal would mean, is that the individual has some freedom. It's not exactly conducive to that. Taxing the shit out of people against their will. The old coercive taxation hoodwink. Not the most liberal thing in the world. And so it's funny, these people who like support big government and entitlement programs and all this horseshit call themselves liberals, and they call me a right winger. Which is supposed to be some kind of insult. Very confusing to me. And I see myself as, even more of a classical liberal than the classical liberals who called themselves classical liberals that started the country. I take freedom of the individual to the furthest logical conclusion it can possibly go, which means you're free not to have a gun to your head saying you got to pay taxes and support everybody else's lifestyle. Like they always use these arguments from consequence of like, oh, you just want poor people to die in the street, and you're just selfish and you don't care about anybody else. And it's like, no, I don't support you forcing other people to pay for the shit. Like, if you care so much about the poor, well, let's have you not get taxed, and then we'll free up that money for you to make much more of an efficient use of it. And just give your money directly to the guy outside the 7-Eleven, and you can make those decisions on who is deserving and who is not among the poor community, who has made, who just has hard luck and who's made terrible decisions. You can make that call, and because the government has been horrifically inefficient in solving poverty. There's a little thing called the war on poverty we've been fighting for going on 60 years now. And we've poured upwards of $25 trillion into it. And poverty's gone down maybe 2%. It's not the best return on investment from the government there. I mean, if you're so compassionate and altruistic, I mean, why would you depend on a representative to share your altruistic views and want to help the poor as much as you are? I mean, you're the compassionate one. You should be down at the soup kitchen. You should be scraping those homeless people that are face down looking dead as fuck with their whole ass out of their pants on Hollywood Boulevard. You should be the one wedging a giant spatula underneath those people and propping them up and helping them, helping them get on their feet, letting them stay in your apartment for a couple weeks, If you care about the migrants, you should be housing the migrants. But it's not about doing things yourself. It's not about being personally responsible for the liberal people. It's about offsetting, just pretending that you're virtuous because you say you care, and then putting off the actual responsibility and the burden of paying for something or doing it yourself onto other people. And that's liberal in 2019. No, you're just a do-nothing faggot that wants to pretend like you're virtuous and sit on your dick and, jerk off to whatever fucking creepy porn you're looking at. Like, they just don't want to have any personal responsibility for their own ideas, and they want to just let other people deal with that. I mean, we'll just let the government deal with that because they know what they're doing. And what's up, Wamba? I consider myself a liberal because I actually believe in freedom. Liberation, the root word that liberal comes from, liber, like, freedom, like the freedom you get from being literate and reading books, like a library, like liberal, like liberate, like set free, being shackled down by, having to support other people's medical costs in a socialized healthcare system, or having to, subsidize somebody else's minimum wage that Bernie Sanders guaranteed they would get, or Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal that says that even if you're unwilling to work, we're going to pay those bills for you, right? Or like Joe Rogan says, I mean, I've been thinking about this whole universal and basic income thing. I mean, why wouldn't we do that? And it's like, in the same sentence, he says, oh, that's crazy that we would just give people money that aren't willing to work. But then he's like, oh, universal basic income. It's kind of an interesting concept. And it's like, you're a fucking retard. That's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you're giving universal basic income to people, you're rewarding them for just continuing to breathe. That's not the best incentive. And then you want to tax the people at 70+% that make $10 million or more. Oh, we're going to destroy the incentive to work at all, and then we're going to destroy the incentive to be super successful at the same time. That's not going to have any repercussions in society that crumble our productivity or lead to any long-term consequences in the economy. It's just like, these people talk all the time about politics and like front like they have an educated opinion, and they've never even glanced at a Murray Rothbard book. They've never even contemplated the economic ramifications of their ideas that they're so confident to go out and talk about in public. Like, a little bit of research, like economics in one lesson. It's like 100 pages. Just read it. Fuck, man. Just read economics in one lesson. Please. It's so simple. There's a system of incentives that's set up already inherent in the free market system of capitalism that encourages productivity and also gives people the excess income when you're not taxing them so heavily to be able to, give money to charity if they like. If you're so compassionate, well, let's just give you your tax money you would have, you know, you would have otherwise spent, and, spend it on what you please there. Freedom of choice. But liberalism is not about freedom, it's about control over other people. What's up? We got some new people in here. What's up, Eins 2? People should clearly pay taxes. Oh, that's not, and the word clearly isn't an argument. Taxation is theft. Brandon Davis says, I'm a Democrat, although more socially than economically. Universal health care is obviously a joke, but you're off base with some other things, my friend. Really off base. Well, saying the term really off base, not quite an argument. Please elucidate on what I'm wrong about. Please elucidate. What up, CR Gun? Trump 2020, baby. Brandon Davis says, however, when the spectrum of resources is so varied, it isn't like before 30, 40 years ago, where if you work hard, you can always improve your life. It's not the same anymore. How so? Are you claiming there's some kind of structural barriers to succeeding? The only structural barriers to succeeding, especially for small business, is the fact that the government so heavily regulates business and creates these barriers to entry into the marketplace, and the big mega corporations get tax breaks, and the small businesses have to comply with the regulations that the big mega corporations set up with their government crony friends. And so they have this giant stack of regulations to comply with, and they have all the overhead of having to pay all these taxes, and it stifles the innovation that would generally happen with small business. And so if you're talking about obstacles to growth, well, need not look further than the government intervention in the economy. Oh, thanks, AJ. Glad to have any subs. Any and all subs, baby. Like it if you like it, share it out if you want. I'm just coming on here talking shit and having fun, saying what's true in my view. So if you think I'm wrong with anything, I'm open to any criticism, but don't just say I'm wrong. Give me an argument. And then watch me tear it to shreds in real time, ladies and gentlemen. Dragon Energy Laser Beam Vision on the comment section here. And no, this is Outrage TV. My name is Nick Jordan. I'm a comic from Oklahoma out here in Los Angeles, Hollywood to be exact. And I just enjoy, coming on here and talking about what I generally can't get away with talking about on stage, because, I'm a little bit ahead of my time with the political ideas there, and they generally just hear me talk about, how taxation is theft, and they conclude that I'm somehow an alt-right white supremacist out here in Hollywood. No matter how many times I tell them about all my black girlfriends, they just stuck in the mindset of, anybody who doesn't like social justice, leftism, must be a redneck right-wing bigot. DMT should absolutely be legal. What's up, Brandon24? What's up, Joshua? I'll get to your comment in a second here, Joshua. Brandon Davis looks like he has an argument here. He says, I wouldn't say structural, but I would say things like inflation and minimum wage staying the same since the 70s roughly. You're asking regular people to stretch the dollar more than they can. I'm not saying I agree with central banking and inflation. That's a totally different argument. I'm saying free market capitalism works when you get the government out of the way. And despite the Federal Reserve being a private company, or a private institution, not necessarily a company, but they do operate as a government body, and the government, they operate with impunity from the government. The government can't even audit the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve just stonewalls them and sits up on Congress like, oh, we're not doing what the fuck you say. Who gives a shit? We're just going to inflate the monetary supply and we know what we're doing. And they just pat, the politicians on their head and the public on their head, and they're like, we are the wizards that are behind the curtain of the economy, and we're going to control the money supply, and we've figured it out. A complex, economy of 320 million people. We know how to pull all the levers and hit all the correct buttons and adjust all the right switches. It's just going to be wonderful. Don't mind all the booms and busts that's happened in history, and all the runs on the banks and all the big collapse in '08. That had nothing to do with us. We know what the fuck we're doing. All right? Because we have the power. And we're mostly Jews. We know, trust in the high IQ of the Jews. I don't trust them. All right, what does Brandon Davis say? You can't say things like you're not talking about inflation, but then talk about capitalism and how it's great and works fine. The starting point for those is a crucial part of that. You don't get inflation in a free market capitalist system when you have a monetary system that's based on tangible resources. Our monetary system is based on confidence in the Federal Reserve and their ability to control the money supply. Confidence in our government. I think we never should have got off the gold standard. But you don't get to make those decisions, do you, as a citizen of the public, when you have a giant authoritarian state over you? Not that the West is authoritarian, but you know what I'm saying. When you have a big government making decisions for you, you don't get to decide how your money is created or the value of it, or if it's deflationary or inflationary. When you allow a centralized monopoly to dictate what the money supply in your economy, you're inevitably going to get runaway inflation and runaway debt. Say what you mean. You just lost all respect for my opinion. What does that mean? I'll get to Joshua Levy here. Brandon Davis seems to be triggered. I don't have a huge booger. This is, that's fake news. Fake news booger. What did Joshua Levy say up here? What are your thoughts on crony capitalism? Are its roots in both parties? It would appear that the authoritarian left has its hand in China and big tech's pockets in a neo-fascism. Very interesting question. My thoughts on crony capitalism is that's what our system is operating now as. It's a crony capitalist system. To succeed fully in business, you need to have a team of lobbyists that you're employing to, get your connections in and get your hooks in Washington. It's like a jiu-jitsu seminar. You got to get the hooks in and fucking, get you a fucking nice lobbyist and choke out the fucking American public and choke out all your small business competition. And that's how you succeed in the modern economy. As far as China, let's see, what else did you say? It's a very complex comment here. Are its roots in both parties? Yeah, it's both parties. I wouldn't blame one party over another. But the left is generally bigger government. at least in rhetoric. Both sides are generally, the same, Wizard of Oz behind the curtain that's operating the puppet politicians there. It would appear that the authoritarian left has its hand in China and big tech's pockets in a neo-fascism. Yeah, the big tech companies are definitely, they're definitely, I don't know. The biggest problem with them is, they have the benefit of paying little to no taxes. As far as that, but, to a certain extent, they've created so much innovation. It's like, I mean, the biggest problem I have with tech companies is they're not a level playing field when they're censoring conservative ideas and banning people for fucking nothing. But I mean, when you have a big government, you're going to get some corrupt, stale institutions in the big corporations, and you're not going to get that general turnover that happens in the free market when competition comes up to compete with it. What up, Bart Simpson? Learned a motherfucking code, dude. Well, yeah, what does Brandon Davis talk about? That's what this that's the big question in the air right now. I'll take that as a compliment. I remind you of Anomaly. I like him. He seems like a good dude. I think he does believe in the Jesus nonsense, though. So, you know, I prefer Christians to Muslims every day of the week, and leftist atheists every day of the week, but can't get on board with the Bible nonsense. Well, Brandon Davis, give me your argument. Don't just say like, "Oh, I lost respect for your opinion, dude." Oh man, I can't even believe it. Give me an argument, or don't make a comment. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I take that as you being triggered. You're just using such black and white thinking and not seeing the entire picture. Again, not an argument. What are you saying? Republicans want less government but are okay with them telling you what to do with your body. I'm not saying Republicans are good. I fucking hate Republicans. I'm an anarchist, bruh. The Republicans are totally full of shit. Donald Trump's the first Republican I've ever voted for. I voted for Obama in 2008. I voted for Obama when I lived in Oklahoma, and I voted for Trump when I lived in Hollywood. So I pretty much just enjoy when everyone hates me. Anarchists are dummies with no real world experience. It seems like you were a third grader that like didn't get the sucker she wanted at the grocery aisle at the cash register, and you're like, anarchists are dummies with no real world experience. I want a Milky Way. Why won't you buy me a Milky Way? It's just, I'm not going to give you an argument. I'm just going to talk like this. And, okay, David Mercer, you're coming in with the trolls pretty hard. I'm going to put you in a little timeout there. You're going to get a timeout. And when you come back, you got to say something nice about the federal outrage chancellor. Those are the rules. I didn't make them up. This is just how, it was written by, I believe, Moses or somebody of that ilk. I mean, these are the rules. It was inscribed. So you're going to have 300 seconds to, put your nose in the corner and think about what you just did. And then when you come back, you got to say something nice about the federal outrage chancellor. And that's going to be fun. Brandon Davis says, like I said, you ignored, it's hard to put a complete argument in 200 characters. If you give me a sec. Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm giving you the floor. I'm just confused what your objection to my arguments are. I support Trump? Now, please tell me honestly, if Obama had done 10% of what he's done, they would have had his head on a stake. I don't know what that means. I support Trump because he's not connected to the deep state and the political establishment. And that's plain to see by how the media constantly has a 24-hour hate campaign against him. And he hasn't started any new wars. The economy has done much better. He's not pushing for socialized communistic healthcare systems. He's not pushing for any of that. He didn't get financed by all the big banks. He didn't help fund ISIS in the Middle East and help destabilize Syria and Libya. He isn't married to a man that can bench press him. It's very important. He doesn't, pride himself in his faggoty jump shot and his ability to predict NCAA tournament brackets. And I know Joe Rogan really loves Barack Obama's rhetoric, and he was so presidential. But, I'm pretty sure. I mean, yeah, he had a faggoty left-handed jump shot, dude. It was pretty limp-wristed. Pretty limp-wristed jump shot. It was like, got to come harder than that, dude. I'm going to swat that out of the paint every day, man. Obama had no fucking game in the paint. That's what it was. That's because, he takes Michael Obama's, sturdy pole. All right. He's got to loosen up. All right. That's why he would sway his hips when he would walk, and he would try to talk tough about, drone strikes, but he would never do anything physically himself. He's just one of those slickster leftists that likes to commit murder from afar, and make jokes about it. Oh, there's definitely something lurking in Michelle's pants there. There's definitely something lurking beneath the surface there too. That's like it's the Loch Obama monster, the Loch Ness White House monster, dude. TDT over ice says, if you want no government, who upholds the peace so that fairy boys like you don't get fucked up? Well, that's super aggressive. You know who holds the peace? Your gun that you got and the walls around you. You see, walls are very effective and locks on your doors, and then guns are effective if those things fall through. So don't need any government protection. I got my walls and my guns, and that's all you need, baby. I mean, if you want the government to protect you, you're just willingly submitting your freedom in exchange for safety that never really comes. And then once you've given up enough of your safety, then, you're going to really wish you hadn't because you have a tyrannical big government system over you, and they're going to do whatever they want with you. I'm going to give my kids guns to carry around because I don't like government? No, dude. Who's coming after my kids? Why do my eyes look high? Because, I've had a couple beers. I've done some comedy shows tonight, and I'm on my second claw, baby. I'm chilling. Maxed and relaxed, but I got the arguments for days, baby. Let's go. Brandon Davis is jealous of my beard. Thank you, sir. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get bigger, dude. I got to do it for the upcoming elections in 2020. I got to have a sturdy beard, just to show people what the fuck is up. Joshua Levy says Obama got pimp slapped by Trump when he erased his legacy in 2 years. Oh, yeah. And Obama was up there, thinking he was big dick and Trump, telling him he'll never be president and he just wants to prove that the moon landing didn't happen. Trying to mic drop on Saturday Night Live. And, now there's bye-bye to all of Obama's legacy. I think there's still some remnants of Obamacare left going on, which is quite unfortunate. Because, I don't really take pride in the fact that, you got to finance other people's diabetes legs because they couldn't stay away from the macaroni and cheese, dude, and the goddamn hot Cheetos. That's just liberalism. It's freedom. You got to pay for other people's bad decisions, even if you don't want to, because there's a gun of government to your head. Oh, shit, David Mercer's back. I'm scared of comments, baby. Oh, I'm shaking in my boots. Oh, yeah, dude. I did 2 sets of comedy tonight, and then, this is my, this is the cut loose time with the Outrage crew, baby. Just join in the fun. David Mercer, what's up, man? Bart Simpson, allow teachers that voluntarily want to carry concealed. Fuck teachers having guns. That was the stupid, controlled opposition. No offense, Bart Simpson, you're a bad motherfucker. But, I mean, that seemed like the controlled opposition fucking argument. They're like, let's get oh, you want to give the teachers guns? Really? Come on, dude. Have another security guard at the school. It's not like there's, retired cops or veterans that just are totally busy and have, can't fit anything in their schedule. It's like there's tons of veterans every day committing suicide. It's like, they could probably use some productive activity defending kids from psycho school shooters. This idea that we got to give the teachers guns. It's like a society that has more well-trained people with guns is a safe society, and it's a polite society. All right, because you're not going to have these, you're never going to see the equivalent of a Twitter argument happening in the street when both people are armed, because it's like, let's keep it polite here. All right. An armed society is a polite society. Who's going to pay for those veterans to do that? I mean, these schools get tons of funding because the liberals are always like, more federal funding for the public schools. It makes them better. And it really just doesn't, because they pour it all into the wrong places, because all the decisions are being made by government bureaucrats that decide what's important for the school, and you're not letting the market regulate itself, or you're not letting the suggestions of the parents and the students dictate what happens in the school. You're not getting treatment personalized to the individual students. It's all this Common Core horse shit that gets pumped. And so it's like, it doesn't matter how much money you pump into the schools. If they have to abide by Common Core, then they're going to keep learning the same propagandistic horse shit that it's like, people create bad things, capitalism creates disasters, and the government swoops in like the Silver Surfer on its silver surfing lovely wave of benevolence, comes in and fixes the market economy and fixes the idiot plebeians that think they can govern themselves. And what would we do without these politicians? That's every history book you read in public school. I mean, they taught me that Joseph McCarthy was a fucking kook. Meanwhile, Joseph McCarthy fucking called it, all right? Now we got 30 to 40% of college professors self-identify as communists. And that's not a big problem. I mean, communism only killed 100 million people in the 20th century. Don't have to worry about them. I mean, there was some dude that went up at the comedy show I go to, and he had a communist sweatshirt on. And straight up hook, hammer and sickle. Straight up hammer and sickle on his sweatshirt, and nobody said shit. If he would have went up with a swastika on his shirt, everybody would have been like, nobody would have listened to a word of his set. But he can just go up there with a hammer and sickle on his sweatshirt, and nobody says shit, because we're conditioned to think that communism is better than Nazism. You just gotta look at the body counts, ladies and gentlemen. Womba says, I'm wrong on that point. There isn't enough money going into school to make it as good as it can be. Our tax money isn't being properly used. I mean, I'm not saying, that's why I'm not a fan of central planning. I'm not saying I know how to properly allocate funding for 320 million people for a society to run efficiently. I'm not saying I know how to do that. That should be left up to the market. I am saying that the government doesn't know how to do it, and that's the wrong place to put our money. And that's why, for my children, they will not be going to public school. They will be getting homeschooled. Because I think you're absolutely insane if you put your kids in that, bastion of propaganda hell. I mean, it's total nonsense to put your kid in public school. Homeschool is the way to go. You got to find a good woman to stay home and raise those kids, baby. Not reading my Russian comments. What'd you say about the Ruskies? The Russian. What is it, the Russian? What's problem? What is problem? Yeah, more public funding doesn't help education because the federal bureaucrats don't know how to allocate money to help the public schools, and the teachers are fucking morons. They're the lowest end of the spectrum of intelligence, the people that go into teaching. So you have to let it be dictated by the market, and you have to have, and it helps to have specialized teaching for individualized students. Like, you don't just have this common core and have them sit in rows like a fucking Soviet system and have this standardized testing thing. It's like, it should be a responsive system that would be provided by the market if it wasn't top down enforced on a federal mandate. What's up, Broad Bent? Welcome to the stream. What question are you talking about, Brandon Davis? Yvonne Rodriguez, welcome, the former catcher from the Detroit Tigers. What's up, Jackson Jackson, the lost member of the Jackson 5? Of course, find a good woman to stay home and teach your kids. Jesus Christ. Teach your kids to code, God damn it. What is Brandon Davis saying about the Russians? Has a bunch of comments he left you, starting with the Russians and intelligence agencies. Can you explain to me what policies you support from the current administration? Don't pivot either. Details. I just support not having Hillary Clinton in office. Mainly. That's the main thing. I support the tax cuts. I think he needs to cut way more government. I support, bringing the troops home from Syria. I support not going to war with Russia. Very important. I support, the destruction of ISIS there. I don't see anything about Russia from Brandon Davis here. Please restate it, because I'm tired of scrolling. What's up, Mr. Davos? Thank you, sir. I will continue to do it. Hard work. Are we yelling about violent Negroid behavior today? Well, we just might, all right? Because, people don't want to accept it. That we got some higher crime rates in the dark communities there. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. David Mercer says, later, guys, this is unwatchable, even as a comedy bit. Come up with some sources before spouting bullshit. Oh, David Mercer is in the grocery aisle again. Come up with some sources. This isn't even watchable anymore. I just want some peanut M&Ms. And it would be nice if I could get some candy every now and then. Mom, you never give me anything. It's okay, David Mercer. All right, if you act right, you might get some candy. Okay, but this pouting thing, it's not going to benefit you, buddy. What are my thoughts on climate change? Climate models are not science. There is a gnat buzzing around my camera here. I'm getting ready to swat it. Where'd he go? Climate models are not science. Despite what they want to tell you. Consensus. Nothing to do with science. Apparently there's a consensus that Kylie Jenner has anything valuable to provide for society because she has a giant billboard on La Cienega and Santa Monica here in Hollywood, and she has it permanently rented out. So we're all supposed to think that Kylie Jenner is very important with all of her, surgically combined body parts that she forms like Voltron. And we're all supposed to think that she's a valuable member of society with a big, fat, fake beanbag ass. And that's very valuable for us. But consensus, sadly, does not equal science. So just because a bunch of government-funded client scientists agree that based on some computer modeling, there's going to be a giant climatological disaster in the next 10 to 20 years, doesn't make it true. There was this big climate report that came out, and they put out this, it was all over Drudge Report and everything. Oh, this big climate report for, I think it was probably in January sometime, but I looked at it, zero data in the entire thing. It was just a bunch of assertions and word salads, which is what they want you to believe, and failed predictions from Al Gore. It's like, we need to believe Al Gore. Oh, dude. Wamba says, "Yikes! Denying science." Now you know how you can tell that they don't have any evidence is because they go immediately to religious language. Oh, you're a denier. You're a heretic. How dare you? No, just give me the evidence. Denying science is probably the most insane Republican ideology. Not a Republican. Smart Republicans understand that climate change exists, but they say that it isn't right to limit the economy for the earth. The carbon concentration in the atmosphere, the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is rising. Is it at dangerous levels? Absolutely not. They show you the 100-year graph, and it's like, oh my God, it looks dangerous. And then you look at the 100 million year graph, and here's where we are now, and here's where it has been historically. It looks like a fucking boy band haircut, like 100 times higher. And the dinosaurs did not need wind farms. They did not need Priuses. Their party got ended by a giant space rock, not because, their carbon footprints were too large. So big time climatological disaster, no evidence for it. I'm open to any evidence that anybody is willing to provide me, but I have yet to see any. All I get from the liberals is a bunch of shaming and, shame language and how dare you question science, and appeals to authority to the climate scientists who also provide me no evidence. So until I see evidence showing that the levels of CO2 that we're at currently or projected into the future are going to produce a climatological disaster, I'm not convinced. Especially when those same government-funded climate scientists, when the solution is that we need another government tax to, fund it, to fund the resistance against climate change. And none of their predictions have come true. So none of their data lines up. Computer models aren't science, and none of their predictions have come true. Thoughts on Joe Rogan and his buddies turning on Owen Benjamin? Well, I can see it from both perspectives. I can see how Owen Benjamin resents Rogan for staying in the Hollywood bubble and, having retarded ideas like universal basic income and basically being a socialist, and he's pro-choice and whatnot. And I love Owen Benjamin. His streams are hilarious, and I think he's definitely funnier than Rogan. But as far as ideologically, I think Owen has gone a little too far off the religious deep end, and the questioning everything is, he's taken it a little far with the moon landing shit and the flat earth. It's definitely interesting to listen to, but he makes a lot of assertions that aren't backed up by evidence, and I feel like his falling back into religiosity is kind of when people do that, like I don't have a major problem with Christians because they're generally individualists. They like smaller government, and they're generally lead moral lives, but it does lead to a kind of detachment from reality. When you take it as a fact that Jesus rose from the dead and walked on water, and that God exists despite there being no empirical proof for it. And so there is kind of a separation from reality when you believe that prayer works and moral and miracles happen. And I think he had a big emotional reaction to the birth of his child, and so he became super pro-life. I take the abortion thing on a more of a biological basis, where like if the fetus can survive outside the womb, I don't think you should kill it. But if it's still a part of the woman's body and couldn't survive outside the womb, then I think it's up to the woman's discretion there. But yeah, I still listen to them both. I mean, Rogan played a big part in me getting inspired to come out here and do comedy in the first place. And, he doesn't understand economics. That's the fundamental thing wrong with all of his political opinions, is he doesn't understand how bad Hillary Clinton's communistic policies and her identity politics would have fucked up the country. And so he doesn't quite understand the Trump phenomenon, and he thinks Trump is a lot dumber than he actually is. And he definitely did throw some softballs to Jack Dorsey, because he makes excuses in his head for liberal people, because he still like has this balance thing in his head where he's like has some ideas that are liberal and some ideas that are conservative, because he doesn't have rock solid principles that you get from understanding economics, like taxation is theft, and communism doesn't work, and universal basic income is probably the most retarded concept I've ever heard in my entire life, and that humans run off of incentives. And human desires are infinite, resources are limited. And resources are limited, that means we can't just hand them out at indiscriminately to people who don't, want to work for anything. It's like, resources are limited. We're $20+ trillion in debt, Joe. So maybe pump the brakes on all the fucking, socialist debt digger programs. But yeah, I still generally like them both. Probably I'd side with Owen over Rogan, but whatever. Yeah, the Tim Pool interview was pretty good. Surprisingly, I mean, Tim Pool just frustrates me with, he seems like he's starting to understand some basic principles of economics, and then he says that he was a Bernie supporter, and I just facepalm, and I'm just like, what about Bernie's idiot policies do you think would work? Like, it's just like, in the comparison with Trump, is like, they were both against the establishment. It's like, no, Bernie wants to grow the establishment and take total control over all the industry in society and take away all the incentive to become rich and just tax the shit out of the rich. Meanwhile, they're going to move out of the country because, they're rich and they have resources just to be able to just pick up and leave the fucking country if we have a giant tax increase on the rich. They have the capacity to just pick up and fucking leave the country and not get hit with that tax. So then who does it fall on? The middle class. That's what always happens in socialism. The productive class gets hit with the most taxes and they get fucked over, and then the productive class can't sustain themselves, and then we're left with the poor class who doesn't have any of the skills of the productive class, and everybody starves to death and dies. And then the government marches you into genocide camps. Isn't it fun? That's what happens with socialism. But unless you understand economics, it just seems like they're being nice. And why wouldn't you want to be nice and give people a bunch of money? I mean, let's give them a bunch of money. What's up, Archer, you bad motherfucker? Mr. Davos, your thoughts on YouTube banning Gavin McInnes and InfoWars for having a different opinion, while Logan Paul shows a dead body on suicide forest and only gets shortly suspended? Well, there's nothing political about a dead body. I mean, the leftists love dead bodies. I mean, they're getting really into infanticide right now. And infanticide is so hot right now. So why would they ban Logan Paul for just showing a dead body? And they also hate Asians because they mess up the whole white privilege argument. If whites are so privileged in the West, then why are East Asians succeeding on higher levels of magnitude than the white people? And that's why Harvard, requires them to get exponentially higher test scores to get into Harvard. And so, the Asians fuck up the whole "we hate whitey" narrative, and so they don't mind dead people, and they hate Asians. So Logan Paul basically, he's pre-approved, and as far as Alex Jones and Gavin McInnes, they don't like them because they're actual libertarians with big audiences and they're funny. That's a huge threat to the power structure. If you have a big audience and you're funny and you want a small government and you're anti-government in general, and especially if you're describing or deconstructing the mainstream media narratives in real time. They really hate that when they come out with a talking point and Alex Jones goes on his radio show and immediately pushes back on it, and he's getting more viewers than CNN. Like, that's what they really hate. They really hate unapologetic straight white male libertarians they just won't shut up. Why won't you shut up so we can get our socialist agenda in and get all of our power and our money? Shut them up. And that's what's so disappointing about Joe Rogan not speaking out more for Alex Jones. It's unbelievable that they just totally unpersoned Alex Jones and wiped out his whole platform and shit. It's like now his show is basically unwatchable because I tried to download the InfoWars app, but god damn it, I cannot sit through those commercials to listen. Commercials for the goddamn super male vitality pills, dude. I'm done. I love Alex Jones though. He's a fucking legend. Mary Jane says, I hate other Americans. That the real. I don't know about that, dude. Logan Paul brought in money. Yeah. Yeah. Tim Pool. Wamba says, how do you feel about Trump's tax cuts only benefiting the rich and increasing the tax amount of the middle class? I didn't see that he increased the tax amount of the middle class. Cutting the taxes of the rich helps everyone in society. Are you watching this program here on a smartphone? Are you watching it on a computer that was relatively inexpensive? Well, that's because rich people invested in the prototypes of those devices and made them so cheap and easy to afford. If you don't have rich people with expendable income, you don't get cheap and affordable electronics or new innovative technologies in anything. So it's a total myth that trickle down economics doesn't work. It's a myth of the left because they have to convince you that the rich are exploiting you, and they're taking away from you. They're not creating wealth that everybody enjoys. I mean, that's what real innovation is. When somebody gets super rich, everybody gets to have a MacBook. Steve Jobs was super fucking rich, all right? Are we going to take away 70% of his income and not let them reinvest it into the company and make the next line of iPhones even better? Rich people having money is not bad. Rich people is not money that you don't have. It's not a finite piece of the pie. It's not a zero-sum game. Wealth is created. It's not stolen and shared, and it's not a finite pizza slice that you get, and Jeff Bezos has this giant slice and he's just a dick for taking that much pizza. It's like, no. He has, created the value that has created that wealth in society because Amazon is so goddamn badass and efficient at what they do. That's the only reason he has that much money. Now, he apparently did, even though he had that much money, he was still sending dick pics to women that weren't his wife, which is, what are you doing, dude? I mean, I am broke as fuck, and I know not to send a dick pic. That is just... That's not gonna gain you any favors, ladies and gentlemen. And apparently he got blackmailed by the National Enquirer. That's, you open yourself up when you start snapping pics of the dick, dude. Now, they had that $70 billion divorce and whatnot, and if she's tired of hanging out with short Jewish dudes, let me just send out a message to Jeff Bezos' ex-wife that there's a tall German here waiting for you, if you want. All right. I'm not saying I could totally be faithful to that 40-year-old situation there, but I'll be around. I'll be around for 70 billion. I'll stick around. Wamba says, I understand that idea, but at the end of the day, everything that was happening before the tax cuts, lowering the tax rate, did nothing but give them more free money. I don't understand the logic of that. Why wouldn't you take more gun... Think about where the money would be otherwise. If it wasn't in the rich people's hands, it would be in government bureaucrats' hands who've never had a job in their life. They don't know how to spend that money. The people who are rich at least have a successful business, or they've provided a successful service, or they've done something of value in their life, and they've shown some actual evidence that they know how to spend money effectively that benefits other people. Government, all they know how to do is waste fucking money and go further into debt. That's all that happens when you give. That's why I don't agree with the public funding for education. It's like, it doesn't go to good use. It doesn't. Government education isn't education. It's propaganda. You're propagandizing your children. You're sending them into a propaganda factory for big government. So increasing the federal budget for education doesn't help educate your children. It does the opposite. That's what happens when you give government money to accomplish a task. They always accomplish the opposite of the desired result. Yeah, education was better before the government was involved. Like, where are the new generation of founding fathers? Those motherfuckers were just like polymaths, you know? Now everybody's all neurotic and jerking off. Taking breaks in class from their bullshit geometry test to jerk off. Mr. Davos says the 70% tax cut should be taken from the way overpaid professional athletes and not those who actually earn their millions. I don't know. I mean, professional athletes, they draw a lot of attention. I mean, it's just a fact. People like watching them play their games. So I don't think they're necessarily overpaid. It does look ridiculous when a guy who's playing basketball for a living makes $100 million. But he's literally generating that much ad revenue with what he does and the eyeballs that he attracts. People want to watch, you know, competitive athletics. It's just something in our monkey brains that gets fucking excited with that shit. And so, you know, I don't blame people for wanting to watch sports. You know, I've loved sports all my life. But I can see the argument that it's like, oh, they're overpaid. They're not really contributing anything to society. They got too much power. But it's like, until everybody stops watching, it's like they kind of deserve it in a market aspect. The average American did not know how to read back then. How was it better? Only the elite knew anything. I don't know. That's a pretty general statement. Education is free for the taking. Yeah, I mean, you can educate yourself to an extent that, you know, a college can't even hold a candle to it. I mean, just the education you can give yourself on the internet. And that's what I did. I mean, I had a short stint in engineering school and decided it wasn't for me. And I did not want to do that fucking type of work the rest of my life. Smoked a bunch of weed to figure that out and got out. And then I finished up the last 2 years and got a bullshit English degree. And yeah, the only thing good about that was that I met the dude that was coming out to Los Angeles that I roomed with. And yeah, I taught everything I'm valuable I've learned in my life. I've taught myself based on reading books on the internet and listening to podcasts and you know, self-education, watching documentaries and shit. I gotta turn this heat off. I'm getting all heated up. 40 acres and a mule. One more White Claw, ladies and gentlemen. I'm having fun on a Monday morning. Oh, Michelle Obama's fugly face is looking back at me on Drudge Report. How horrifying. You think we finally provide the 40 acres and a mule, race relations will improve? I think race relations will improve if we get rid of the welfare state and stop incentivizing women to be single moms and have broken homes. The only thing that's going to help those communities is a little bit of self-reflection, unfortunately. And targeted, compassionate donations from individuals that evaluate where their money is going. Not this blanket, like, dump money on the problem that the government does. The government... Like, the government is for fighting wars and national defense. It's like, it's not for the delicate process of, bringing up communities and donating money to help people out of poverty. Like, it's such a delicate process to, like, choose who you donate to in the funds and the charities. It's so delicate of a process to not just fuck it up and dump a bunch of money on people's heads who don't know how to have money, and so they just end up with no incentive to actually work. And so that's not what the government is for. The government is a big giant fucking gun in the room. Guns don't help poverty, all right? But the only way to help those communities is to take the negative incentives away that the welfare state provides and let them sort it out themselves, and let them and get the regulations out of the way, and remove the barriers to small business, and give them more of an incentive to start a small business than to join a gang and shoot people. It's got to be a system of incentives, because I believe in black people to have the intelligence to pick themselves up. And because I talk to black people all the time, they get this shit, man. They get it fundamentally that, they're being fucked over by the system, but they don't want to speak out because it's looked at negatively in the black community to be like, these Democrats are fucked up and they're not really helping us, and Trump's not really that bad. Like, they get shamed into this shit. And it's terrible, man. It's terrible. It's a self-destructive process, and you're just, as long as you keep that welfare state going, you're going to continue to have a bunch of single motherhood and broken homes and gang activity and a bunch of violence and shit. And, as long as you have the left there to race bait, they're going to continue, the dumbest among them are going to continue to blame whitey and systemic oppression, and, It's gotta be a look in the mirror for the black community, and we got to get the government out of the way. That's what I think. Because if you unleash the creativity and the energy and the passion of the black community into the free market, endless possibilities, endless fucking possibilities. They're so creative. They're so passionate about what they love. And if you unleash that in the free market, you get the fucking negative incentives out of the way and stop destroying the families, then, possibilities are endless. Mr. Davo says, I've thought about moving to California, but not the LA area because of how expensive it is and how crazy people are around there. What do you think, Nick? I'm from a hick town in the Midwest. Cheers. I am also from a hick town in the Midwest. It depends on what your goals are, baby. I mean, I want to do stand-up comedy and write movies, so this is pretty much the mecca for that type of behavior. So if you have a career that, if you want to be in show business, there's no better place. Just come out here. I would suggest, I came out here and started in Westchester, down by the LAX airport there. Pretty affordable. There's some affordable communities that aren't too far from Hollywood. You're probably going to have a roommate to start out with. You go with a room share situation and whatnot, but you can make it happen. You can make it happen, man. Drive your ass on out here, dude. If you got something to share with the world, this ain't a bad place to do it. You can find your own little niche and get in there and make it happen, dude. Let's see. Mr. Davis, also want to be a movie writer, director. I have a screenplay I've been writing for 8 years. Move on from that shit. That's too long. That if you tell any Hollywood producer you've been working on one movie for 8 years, they're gonna laugh at you and never talk to you again. You gotta have it. You gotta have like 3 or 4 of them. They want to see. They're gonna ask you how long have you been writing and how many pieces of work do you have, and they're gonna want to see based on that information how fast you can pump out material. So what I would say to do is scrap that and come back. You can always come back to it later. Start on a new thing. Start on a new thing. It'll get your creative juices flowing and it'll get you more inspired to work on it and whatnot. But that's going to be the first question. Even if they really like your script, they're going to be like, what else do you got? Because you're not just one screenplay, you're a writer. And if they're going to invest in you, they want to see that you're capable of producing material on a consistent basis. So that'd be my advice. Scrap that thing and work on a new thing. But it might be the hot script, baby. They was Kangs. So we can put in modern day pyramids. Oh, that's one of the funniest memes. We was Kangs. Oh, dude. Archer says, I don't mean to sound racist, but how come blacks are always fucking around with self-destructive behavior? Well, I feel like that's a multi-layered question. That's multi-layered. Self-destructive behavior. A lot of it is negative incentives based on them voting Democrat and the welfare state and whatnot. And there is a legacy of slavery that still hangs over their head that's passed on from generation to generation. And there's this kind of resentment of white people that is very destructive and can lead to some nihilism and fuck the world attitude and whatnot. As far as self-destructive behavior, it is glorified in the modern culture, like in rap videos and shit. Self-destructive behavior, like just over-the-top radical promiscuity and fucking drug use. Like it's just openly promoted everywhere. And there's no like discipline of it. There's no like rational, like, you know, maybe don't smoke 10 blunts and then, you know, try to fuck your girlfriend while you're driving your car. I don't know. While you're drinking gin and juice, laid back with my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Yeah, the thug culture is just so promoted in the hip hop thing. It's pretty unfortunate. Even though some of the music is pretty goddamn good. What's up, Mervin the Merlin? I'm glad my channel popped up in your feed. You've reached the truth portal here, the portal of truth on the internet. I don't believe anything I can't prove. And so we're here on the Federal Outrage Commune podcast, delegating the truth down to the disciples and spreading it far and wide, ladies and gentlemen. Deconstructing the cultural Marxist narratives being pushed in society for whatever goddamn reason. And, you know, I won't stop until I hate fuck Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. All right, I'm gonna seduce her, and and she's going to enjoy it thoroughly for freedom. I'm gonna do it for freedom, and I'm gonna convince her of free market capitalism while I'm deep inside her. Okay, that's the solution. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez needs a good stiff one. All right? She needs to feel some true blue patriotic American capitalism. Some of that dragon energy. Why does Jackson keep talking about turds? What are you talking about, sir? Are you on the toilet right now? Are you defecating while listening to my pontificating? That is goddamn disrespectful, sir. How to rob people. AOC is a female minority, and that's why she was elected. Either way, I hope you tap that ass. I'm into the female minorities. My roommate is a black woman here. And, not that I want to associate with her. I just need a shield against people accusing me of being racist. No, I am a fan of the black women. I love the hip to waist ratio going on there. And typically I've found when that black women are much more receptive to arguments that have to do with reality. They can get snapped out of the social justice mindset really quick if you give them some good logic and good, based attitude. I mean, if they feel where you're coming from, then you can sway them a lot more than these psycho white chicks. White chicks are just a lost cause at this point. I'm resigned to the fact that I'm gonna have an Oreo baby. All right, I just hope I can be one of those psycho sports dads like Pete Maravich's dad, and raise an elite athlete and live out my NBA dreams that I never accomplished through my son. I want to have a Steph Curry kid, is what I'm saying. All right. No, I mean, the black chicks I've met out here in Los Angeles have been, tremendous. I don't know if they're just agreeing with me because they like looking at my beard or what, but, I'm definitely not into the social justice freaked out, anxious, weirdo white chicks out here who just are hell-bent on hating themselves and trying to fuck black dudes. There's a lot of miscegenation going on here out in Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Miscegenation run rampant. Yeah, AOC is definitely a fucking airhead. It's super scary how many people are like on board with her horse shit. It's like, man, they really do not teach any economics in public school. That's one thing the federal funding going to public schools is definitely not funding, is goddamn economics. Nobody understands a goddamn thing. We need a $15 minimum wage. It's like, why not make it $200? Let's have a $200 minimum wage. $200 an hour. All right, we don't need just a living wage. We need an opulence wage. Let's have these Chipotle workers driving Rolls Royces, and that's good for the economy, ladies and gentlemen. Don't ask how it gets funded. Don't ask how the businesses stay afloat. That's not important. We just need these workers to get a living wage. Even if they're not working, they need a living wage. They need $200 an hour. $200 an hour for playing Skyrim. All right? $200 an hour for jerking off to interracial gangbangs on Pornhub. There you go. All right? Society fixed. All right? And then we, all the rest of the money that's not going to that, we pay to Al Gore to fix the climate. And then, it's utopia. Oh yeah, purple and blue hair and a rape whistle. Rape whistles don't work, man. These girls need to be, having that concealed carry. That's a rape prevention device right there. That capitalism have raised billions of more people out of poverty than communism and socialism. Yeah, dude. Abso-motherfucking-lutely. Nobody gives any credit to free market capitalism. It's just all about how evil rich people are. He's just so resentful and surface level and just nonsensical as fuck, dude. There's no respecting, you know, the accomplishments that go along with having a big bank account. It's like, you just stole that money from us. Nothing sexier than a girl with a gun. How about a girl with a katana blade? All right. I like me some, what's her name? Kill Bill. What's her goddamn name? That sexy little fox there, the blonde fox of Tarantino. I can't even remember her name right now. Not Lucy Liu. The main chick. The main chick from Kill Bill. But yeah, I wrote a script called Dragon Sisters, having to do with martial arts and two sisters that get abandoned because their parents get killed by the Yakuza. And one of them becomes a martial artist. One of them falls into sex slavery in this like evil motherfucker's circle. Oh, this is definitely an anti-snowflake liberal cuck channel, sir. John Nee, you've come to the right place. We're deconstructing the cucked narratives here in society, and we're coming with some based arguments. All right, we got high testosterone on this channel. I did a lot of chin ups and dips today. I ate an entire Little Caesars pizza, and I ate an entire pint of ice cream, and the abs are flat. All right, that's how we do it. All right, we work out before our carbs, and then we take down the communists, one argument at a time. All right, one chin up at a time, one argument at a time. All right, free market capitalism, military press and squats. Uma Thurman, there it is. She's getting up there in age now, but goddamn, when Kill Bill came out, she was a sexy motherfucker. Oh, them big doe eyes, just with the katana blade and shit. Oh, Beatrix Kiddo. You gotta be kiddo. You gotta be kidding me. People always say this. AOC is doing what Trump did with the right. She's creating a blue wave, and with other progressives will push Pocahontas into the White House. Pocahontas is not going into the White House. Like, that's our worst nightmare. If she actually gets the Dem nomination and has to stand on a debate stage with Donald Trump, like, I give her credit for trying, but Jesus fucking Christ, that's going to be an evisceration of epic proportions. That's going to be a historic, disaster, because man, the weirdest thing about that whole Pocahontas thing is like, there's supposed to be white privilege, but now we got white people pretending to not be white to get ahead in their career. Like, how does that work? I thought white people were supposed to have the biggest advantage in getting ahead in companies. It's a little strange to me, and from here on out, I should be known as not Nick Jordan, but Nick Big Goose. All right. I'm taking advantage of the Native American diversity program here. And if you think that's racist, fuck you, because you probably haven't ever had a Native American friend. I had many growing up in Ponca City, Oklahoma, and anybody who accuses my comedy of being alt-right, I'm going to beat my drum in their face. Don't back away from my culture. Don't be hateful. Don't be white supremacist. Okay, don't be like the Covington school kids. Don't be racist. You never see ethnic people pretending to be white, which you should see more of it. It just goes to show you there's not that many advantages to being white. I mean, Barack Obama was half white. His mother was a white woman. If he wanted to, he could have disappointed the shit out of the black community and be like, address the racial question. Racial question, I'm going to address it. My mother was full white. I identify as white. And sorry to the black community, but there will be no first black president. All right, I'm going on the white ticket. I feel like that's my ticket to the White House. Okay, it just makes sense. But that doesn't happen, does it? You know a legend of my great city, Ponca City, Oklahoma? He lived in Stirwell. Are you talking about Bo Big Goose? Oh, vape cringe. Well, my apologies for not, giving myself lung tumors by actually smoking cigarettes. I enjoy the nicotine though. And, I think people who cringe at vaping are just jealous that they're not getting the same buzz that I am. So sad. You don't have as much dragon energy as I do. Feel this one. Oh, shit. I feel like Smog sitting on a pile of gold like Donald Trump, dude. Because that's what Donald Trump is. He's like Smog in The Hobbit. He's just sitting on a giant pile of gold, and the media's coming in and poking his belly and shit. He's getting fat. I don't like him. He's orange. And then you see that eye open up. Oh, shit. Smog is awake. He's tweeting. Run and duck from the tweets. That's all the mainstream media's job is now, is reading Donald Trump's tweets on air and pretending like they're pissed off. PewDiePie says, we need to meme Trump wearing a wig and identifying as a woman, the first woman president. Women are terrible leaders, man, because they sacrifice freedom for safety. Because they're used to raising infants, and they're very good at raising infants, but they're not good at leading men. That's why there's very few actual funny women comedians, because they have to lead the thought process for a room full of mostly men, and most men don't get on board with that unless they're talking about their pussy and showing some cleavage. Women, that's why when women got the vote, the next 40 years was, now we have a big giant welfare state because we need a safety net in society. It doesn't matter if you don't have any freedom and you get your taxes forcibly extracted from your wallet and you're forced to pay for this horseshit government program that doesn't work at all, but we all got to pretend it works because we don't want to, get our hands dirty actually working with the poor and fixing the problem. We got to just offset that to the government and call ourselves virtuous because, we believe in welfare. Hard Work says, I had a female MTI. I don't know what MTI is. I couldn't take her serious and just smile when she got mad. I objectify women all the time, but it's not purposely. I'm a man and I want to fuck. My bad. You probably get laid a lot. That's the perspective of a man who commands the respect of women. All right? Women will never tell you they respect that perspective, but it does give them the tingles. When you're like, all right, baby, you're going to talk to me about politics? Go ahead. They love that shit. They love when you disrespect their opinion. They will never tell you that, and they will never admit to it among their friends, but it does give them the tingles because fundamentally they want a motherfucker that's better than they are. They want somebody that's better at understanding what's going on in the world than they are. They don't want to lead. They want a leader. They want to fuck a leader. They don't want to lead themselves. If they're leading themselves, well, that means there's a bunch of fucking beta cucks in society that don't know what they're doing, and like the masculinity has dropped off a cliff in society, and none of them want to take a leadership role, and so they're like, let's just listen to the woman. I mean, we want to have equality, and I mean, she is a human, and I mean, just because she doesn't have testicles, that it's it has nothing to do with equality. It has to do with what the genders are fundamentally better at. And men just happen to be better at understanding economics and leading other men. I said it on stage. It got a laugh the other day. It was, I think we may have too dumb of a society for democracy to work. I think we should have an economics test for you to be able to qualify to vote. But, that would really piss off all the women. That would, because they don't get down with the Murray Rothbards and the Ayn Rands. That's, it's a little testy. They're much more into the Pinterest and, drooling over Michelle Obama at the Grammys and things of that nature. I'm just saying, I've never lost a game of Monopoly to a woman. Undefeated. All right? My mother, my sister, my grandmother, I love them all, but they all got dealt with. All right? They got bankrupted in the Monopoly game. They landed on that Park Place, and I was like, ooh, mama, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt, mama. Oh, you really shouldn't have done that. I'm going to have to clean you out, then I'm cleaning sister out, then I'm cleaning grandma out. And, we might as well fold up the board right now, because it's just... I made my grandmother skip her turn in Scrabble, because she challenged me on a word that I played, and I looked it up immediately in the Scrabble dictionary and proved her wrong. And I was like, well, those are the rules, Grandma. Because I respect women. I hold them personally responsible. You chose to challenge my word. Now you got to skip your turn. We all got to play by the rules. That's equality. All right? Oh, women talk about equality just so they can get, more positions of power, but they don't actually want equality. The genders are better at different shit. We just got to accept that. There's different tendencies to different genders. And we all perform our roles adequately. It's so weird that women all of a sudden got dissatisfied with creating life out of their vagina. Like, it's such a goddamn... Like, I don't believe in miracles. I'm an atheist. But that's a goddamn miracle if I've ever seen one. You just take my semen and create a human being out of it. And you're not satisfied with that? That's slavery. That's servitude. I don't want to be dependent on a man. And it's like, that's when women are the most productive and the most happy and the most successful and the most, valuable to society, is when they're raising great children. But, no, we've got to go out and try to, force ourselves to compete with men in the workforce, and we got to have equal wages and get out in the oil fields then. Get in the coal mines. Oh, you didn't want to do that? You just want to get the same payment for working in the HR department? Sorry, bitch, that's not how reality works. It's not as valuable. Not as dangerous, not as risky. You're not going to get paid as much. Save yourself a lot of pain and misery, and find a good man and have his kids and raise them, and don't send them to public school. Vape cringe. Mary Jane says there are rules all men must conform to. If you break them, no woman play. That was very. I assume you're a woman because your name is Mary Jane, but that was very cave woman-esque with your grammatical syntax there. And even I can recognize that 3 White Claws deep. So you're not proving me wrong here. Mr. Davo says rape is the only exception. Exception to what? What are you talking about, sir? Hard Work says colleges are encouraging women to cut their tits off and grow mustaches. Being trans is fashionable now. Well, it seems like the trans phenomenon is mostly men chopping their dicks off and becoming women. That seems to be the predominant trans phenomenon because of the demasculation of society and the lowering of testosterone. And, the idea of equality and women, can do they don't need no man and they can do anything a man can do. But, when the man leaves them when they have a kid, they're looking for the man to pay the taxes to finance that kid. We need that welfare state funded by men. Mary Jane says, no, have an understanding of women. More cave woman syntax there. I assume English is not your first language, and that's okay. You just got to try a little harder. Bart Simpson has, rape is the only exception to abortion. Okay. I think, if it's within, the first trimester, you should be able to get an abortion if you want. Because, some people are in terrible economic situations, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them for wanting to do it. Because having a baby is a huge responsibility, and if you're not in a position in your life to take on that responsibility, well, you're only doing a disservice to the kid that would inevitably be born. And so I think biologically, if it's still part of the woman, it's kind of tantamount to chopping her own arm off. If the baby can't survive outside the womb, I don't consider it exactly murder. It's kind of voluntary amputee situation there. Hard Work says, I almost prefer getting happy ending at the Chinese massage parlor and then dealing with these liberal and proud of it dating apps. At 30 years old, most women who are single have 3 kids anyways. LOL. Yeah. I mean, that's the good thing about being a man is like you can be well into your 40s and still get a hot 20-year-old if you got the resources and the game to pull it. So, no shortage of time and opportunity there for the male end of the equation. But once women are over 30, that clock starts ticking, baby. Oh, MTI is military training instructor. Yeah, that's a little tough. If your military training instructor is a woman, that's a little weird. What's up, Leo? Welcome to the stream. Doesn't late-term abortion worth protesting in the streets? It's pretty fucked up. And I think they're going to feel the repercussions come election time, because that was, if middle America needed any more confirmation that the left is on a demonic path, arguing that you can kill your baby right up to the point where you're having contractions and going into birth, or like even after it's born, having a conversation with your doctor about killing the baby is acceptable. That's the position the left is taking now. And so that's not gonna fly with the middle of the country, dude. I mean, That's why you see Trump, he mentions it in his State of the Union address, and he gets a 76% approval rate in all the polls. Yeah, that was definitely a step too far for the left, and it's pretty horrific. It just shows the anti-human agenda of the left. Like it's across the board, anti-human, and they hate themselves, and they universalize it to hate humanity in general. They hate wealthy people. They hate the successful, so they're super resentful against them. So we got to tax the shit out of them and disincentivize anybody from making any money or making any revolutionary contributions to society and becoming rich. Can't let that happen. They hate humans in general, as far as the environmental agenda. Humans are just, consuming animals, and we never create anything that's beneficial. It's just we're all just eating and shitting and fucking, and we're just animals, and we have no creative consciousness capacity. We're just, indistinguishable from dogs, and we're destroying the climate. We're just plundering and destroying, and there's no creation happening. So the environmental agenda and the abortion thing, like, if you gotta fundamentally despise humanity if you want to kill a baby that's 8 months into the pregnancy, or a baby that was just born. Like, there were so many obstacles that had to be hopped over, and failures that had to happen if you didn't want that kid to come to term. Like, wrap it up, But when you're dealing with the solution, you're dealing with it should be about prevention rather than cure, but they want to put a Band-Aid over it and say you can kill your baby as soon as it's born. That's not going to fly with middle America. Trump is definitely getting elected in 2020. It's unquestionable. The left has no fucking candidates for him. Mr. Davo says, what are your thoughts on Covington High School student situation? I can't trust any leftists after their complete leftist hatred without facts. Yeah. Even when they saw the full video, Bill Maher came out and said the horseshit narrative of the white kids went up to the Native American guy and were being disrespectful. And it's like, they can't even be swayed by seeing the video right in front of their face. And it's like Bill Maher has a giant billboard up here on Sunset Boulevard where it's like, nothing but the truth. And it's like him looking all stern and parental. And it's like, Bill Maher's a fucking joke. What do you even stand for? Oh my God, you're an atheist. Oh, how profound. God isn't real. Like, welcome to fucking 6th grade, dude. Okay, God isn't real, and you just endlessly mock Christians for their belief that are not even claiming is logical or fact-based. They just have their faith, and they're not trying to press it on anybody else, especially through the government. But all the religion of leftism, they definitely want to push all of their policies by force at the point of a gun through taxation and through the government. But yeah, he jumped on that fake ass narrative of the Covington kids, and they're all getting sued. The parents of those kids are apparently preparing some lawsuits, and they're going to be pretty tasty. So how dare that kid stand there and smirk as a white kid, disrespecting his elder who lied about being in the Vietnam War. Oh yeah, Trump will never be president. at the Bill Maher show, they all laughed at what's her name? I'm blanking on names tonight. The tall conservative chick. Anyway, she was on Bill Maher and was like, out of all the Ann Coulter, thank you. Out of all the Republican candidates, who is the most likely to win? And she said Donald Trump, and they all, ha ha ha, what an idiot, you know. These like leftist progressive audiences for the late night shows and for Bill Nye, I almost said Bill Nye, Bill Maher's show are just so just sheep-like. Just applaud the narrative. No facts required. And that's why they've totally stopped being funny. There's nothing funny about those shows anymore because there's nothing based in the truth. The increasing censorship on the internet favoring the left. Yeah. Well, I mean, these big tech companies are in leftist bubbles in the San Fernando Valley and in San Francisco. And so they're automatically going to have a left-wing bias. And they also get preferential legislation to not have to pay taxes. And so, of course, they want big government to cut out their competition because they're trying to establish a monopoly, a complete monopoly. And, of course, they're not going to support the free market capitalist guys who, if their ideas, their true ideas were implemented, then they would have to actually provide sufficient value to maintain their monopoly, and they wouldn't have to and they would have to fend off competition that's coming up that provides a better service and a better platform. But instead, they can just maintain their monopoly by having a relationship with government, getting tax breaks, and passing through beneficial legislation that keeps them on top. I've thought about getting on Gab, but it's like, I don't know. It's maybe if it gets bigger, but it's just so sidelined. Like, I'd rather, I'm still on Twitter. I haven't been banned from Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. I don't say that lightly. I wish I had been. It's a badge of honor, and it means I haven't been as effective as I could be, that I haven't been banned thus far. But I'd rather fight them on the enemy platforms there and, hit them right where they are, rather than go in my own conservative, truth-based bubble, and just play to the crowd that already gets it. I'd rather make a point in public on the platforms where the enemy resides. Right wing doesn't hurt anybody like the left does. Yeah, the left wing is all based on coercion. That's why I told that guy that claims to be a liberal tonight at the mic, I told him, you're not a liberal. Your whole ideology is based on coercion and the threat of violence through the government and through taxation. And he always makes this, it all goes back to taxes, doesn't it? Yes, it all goes back to taxes. Because you have a gun to the populace's head, enforcing an agenda. And you're not doing it voluntarily. You're not voluntarily convincing people of your arguments. You're not making the best arguments. Number one, the left can't convince any of the American public of their arguments, even in a democratic system. That's why they have to import third world immigrants and bust them around to voting stations and get them to register under dead people's names and vote Democrat. Because, they want that welfare money. And it's like they've admitted it, like on hidden camera. James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, rigging the system, voter fraud. You can search that up. They went in, and these people affiliated with the DNC admitted it. They were like, yeah, for the last 50 years, we've been busting people around and stealing these elections, and that's what they deserve, all right? We got to get our agenda through. And it's just so blatant. And it's like there's no moral objection to having a border wall. They just like are terrified that they're going to lose their voter base that they import. The third world people that come in here with low IQs and a history of big corrupt authoritarian governments that they live under, and so that's what they come in and vote for. And that's what the left wants. They want that authoritarian power. And these damn libertarians like Alex Jones and Gavin McInnes are getting in the way. Oh yeah, Trump is Trump will be remembered as a legendary president. I It's debatable. I think Trump is already the best president that we've ever had. Just in terms of pushing back against the narratives that were getting ready to push us off an economic cliff, and breaking the political correctness conditioning and waking people up to the evils of the left. Tremendous. Kennedy was good, but I don't know. I have to think about my criticisms of Kennedy. I don't know. Kennedy compared to Trump, they're very similar. They both get a lot of pussy on the side, and they're both very hated by the deep state, and they oppose authoritarianism. But the economy was still very strong, and the government wasn't very big in the time of Kennedy. So the stakes are way higher with Trump, because the government is so big. If Hillary Clinton got a hold of the levers of power, it would have been catastrophically horrible. Mary Jane thinks Google and the NSA is robbing us blind. I don't know about robbing us blind. I mean, the NSA is definitely violating our Fourth Amendment rights constantly. And Google does have, that incestuous relationship with the government. But we are operating on Google platforms here in order to speak truth to power. So, got to give them some credit for the technological innovations there. They know everything. They're keeping a data log on you. When do I think journalism died? When they started monetizing the newscasts, the cable news, when they started taking advertising dollars, and then it became, if it bleeds, it leads, and the most hyperbolic, extreme, narrative got promoted because that got the most views and the best ratings. And so then it became about what's the most sensationalist thing we can come up with, and not what's actually true. That's when journalism died. You can watch the movie Network, 1976. They broke it all down, and it's a well acted movie. It's a really entertaining flick, and also informative as to when the news broke off from actually reporting the facts and going toward views, ratings, and clicks instead. Don Lemon shoved the pipe bomb up his ass. I think that's probably accurate. They told him to do that, and he was more than willing, because they were willing to sacrifice Don Lemon because he means nothing and he has no principles. He's just, a vessel for identity politics. And so they were like, Don, we're not sure if this is a pipe bomb, but go ahead and shove it up your ass, okay? All right, try to diffuse it with your anal capacities there. And, you know, we know you're very talented with your anal abilities. And so please defuse this bomb with your anus. And he was more than willing. And, you know, Anderson Cooper was very proud of him, I hear. I'm talking about buttholes because Don Lemon is obsessed. He's insatiable. Who are some of my favorite filmmakers? Favorite filmmakers. I really like, obviously, Kubrick, Scorsese. I do like David Lynch. I like Mulholland Drive a lot. It's so weird and dreamlike and just movies I recommend. A little known one, you might not know of it, but it's called In Bruges with Colin Farrell and what's his name? Brendan Gleeson. A lot of the Irish banter in that one. Martin McDonagh wrote it, and he's a fabulous writer, and he really gets the Irish wit. The Irish wit is just baked right into the script, and it's magical. It's a quite magical script. It's about two hitmen in Bruges, Belgium, and they get on assignment in Bruges and get into debates about how beautiful the city is and how they should accomplish their tasks there. And they call each other cunts a lot. The word cunt is magical in an Irish accent. And it's a lovely movie. It'll entertain you. In Bruges. I think it's from like 2008. See, obviously Tarantino. He's been a little too heavy on the slavery kick. We get it. White people are evil, Quentin. Who the fuck else? I'm just naming all the big guys. Christopher Nolan is great. Yeah, I don't have any, like, I'm trying to think of a guy that you probably wouldn't have heard of that I really like. I don't know, I'm blanking. Go back in time and watch some Federico Fellini. Bill Cooper, never listened to him. You can check it out. Hard work. I don't think I'm going to address the question of whether gay people enjoy the smell of feces. That's super sized hate speech there. Fourth and Fifth Amendment go together. When did that start year-wise? I don't know about that. David Lynch is pretty badass, dude. I love Mulholland Drive. Naomi Watts is so fucking sexy in that movie. Ooh, and I love that dream sequence where the guy at the diner sees the dirty ass homeless creature behind the dumpster. It's super creepy. Other filmmakers. I really like Shane Black's writing. If you haven't watched all of Shane Black's shit, I mean, Lethal Weapon, The Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, fucking tremendous. I don't know who Jordan Maxwell is. Twin Peaks, is that a TV series? Pool Hall Junkies, is that a movie? Okay, Edgar Wright is great. I've always liked Alfred Hitchcock, the old Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. You know, a lot of those are pretty good. I'm trying to think, other filmmakers. David Fincher is good, obviously with Fight Club. I don't know. I haven't paid attention much to the modern day movies because I'm just like jaded with the Hollywood leftist horse shit. I'm trying to write my own movies, baby. Do lesbians enjoy the smell of Alaskan sea bass? I think that's. Is that even a debate? I don't think that's even a debate. I'm much more of a fan of screenwriters than filmmakers. I don't know. Oh, Paul Thomas Anderson, definitely. There Will Be Blood is fucking tremendous. And Boogie Nights, love me some Boogie Nights. Yeah, dude, Paul Thomas Anderson. And Magnolia is tremendous as well, yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're pushing 2 hours, and I really got to urinate, and I don't feel like subjecting the Outragians to the Chancellor's flow here for tonight. So we'll probably wrap it up. It's been fun as hell for tonight. Thank all of the new people for tuning in, and all the OGs for checking in as well. I love all you bad motherfuckers out there, and we're gonna keep, ranting and raving about the idiocies of the world and the truth on the other side. You can follow me on Instagram at Nick Jordan himself. I'll be posting clips of this shit. You can find the full audio of the podcast on all the podcast apps. It's Outrage Cast, all one word. And yeah, baby, at I am Nick Jordan on Twitter. Yeah, dude. We're going to keep rocking it out here on the Outrage Cast, exposing the fakes and the liars and telling the truth as best we can. Get your arguments together and devastate the enemy, ladies and gentlemen, because Western civilization depends on it. All right? I got to get some fucking sleep and rest up for tomorrow's endeavors. I wish you all a beautiful, beautiful night, and stay free, my friends.